And so when I tell like diehard Star Wars fans that I love Jar Jar Binks, and I see them start to like seethe, I just like follow up with, oh, but isn't he totally like a Sith Lord? And then they're like, oh, yeah, actually, I like that and respect that opinion. He could be a Sith Lord.
Welcome back. Hey,
this time it worked.
What are you doing?
The attention of
Stop
the
it.
female.
Stop it. Welcome
The
back.
other brother will go away now, sad and alone. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Welcome back to Is This for Kids? We are in an epic battle for the souls of our children. I was trying to make it a Star Wars corollary, but then it kind of fell
like
out.
A religious
I
thing,
don't know what happened. Anyway, this is our second part of our series on Star Wars. We are moving on from the original 3 films to now the prequels to discuss whether or not those prequels are for kids. Now, tell me, John, do you remember the plot of the prequels?
So I do. We did not actually go through a lot of the plot of the originals because what person is showing their kids those movies who hasn't already seen them? We mostly assume they have, and so we talked about what we would do with our kids. Mm-hmm. Now, though, the movies do get a little more interesting with the prequels.
Yeah.
So I think I could give you some of the plot for sure.
Yeah.
The general, but I'm going to let you do it.
Okay.
And I have many thoughts, particularly on episode 1.
Okay, so basically when we are looking at the prequels here, we are looking at the story of how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. So starting in the very first episode, which is A Phantom Menace, we see Obi-Wan Kenobi with his, he is at that time, I think he's still a Padawan learner, and he is with his Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, and they're going out to find this child who is going to balance the Force. He's born of his mother and the midichlorians. Like, it's a very, Jesus story, virgin birth situation where Anakin Skywalker comes to be in the world. He's a fantastic racer. He's a real smart kid. He's got great mechanical skills, and he is going with these 2 Jedi that have picked him up, and they're going to try and deliver the Queen of Naboo to safety. I think they're going to Congress. I really don't remember where they were going with her, but they're taking her somewhere, right? Yeah. This is the whole premise of the first one. In the second movie, we're looking at Attack of the Clones. This is where we start to see Anakin and the Queen of Naboo, whose name is Padme. Sorry, she was Queen Amidala in the first movie. She's Padme because Queen is an elected position on Naboo. Yep. So Padme and Anakin start to sort of form a romantic relationship, which is forbidden by the Jedi Code. And so that relationship starts to blossom and ends with them getting married. And at the same time,
in secret.
At the same time, you have all this stuff going on between the Galactic Senate and the Trade Federation. And I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's like all politics. They're kind of all the same. Anyway, and then this series ends with the Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin, because of how much he loves Padme, is afraid of losing her. She's pregnant, and he turns to the dark side because he's afraid he's going to lose her.
Great job.
There you go.
Wow. That was better than I could have done.
Yes. Well, that's because of all the sand. It's coarse and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, here's why. So this is the thing. I upset Star Wars fans all of the time. The diehard ones. Yeah. Because my 2 favorite things about Star Wars, no joke, come from episode 1. I know. Which is pod racing. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a video game, and I forget if it was N64. I think it was N64. It may have been Sega Dreamcast, but I think it was N64, where it was a Star Wars pod racing video game. Yeah. And for the millennials out there, who played it, you remember it as like a top 5 video game in its time. It was so fun. I played it all the time, and the pod racing was super dope. What?
No, I'm with you.
It was great. I also am a huge fan of Jar Jar Binks. So, like, as someone who I loved the original Star Wars movies. I experienced the wonder and awe of them, but only saw them once or twice each. I wasn't obsessed, right? But I enjoyed it for what it was. And then, like, remember watching episode 1 being like, I'm going to like this because I like Star Wars. And then just liking Jar Jar Binks. Yeah. And so when I tell, like, diehard Star Wars fans that I love Jar Jar Binks, and I see them start to, like, seethe, I just, like, follow up with, oh, but isn't he totally, like, a Sith Lord? And then they're like, oh, yeah, actually, I like that and respect that opinion. He could be a Sith Lord. There's a whole deep dive into, is Jar Jar Binks a Sith Lord, which is
wow.
really, really, really fun to dive into. But I mean, Misa Jar Jar Binks. Yeah. I mean, he's a great character.
I think he got a lot of a bad rep for no good reason.
Thank you.
A big deal at the time that people were saying that there might have been some racial undertones, which is really odd because he's an underwater lizard dinosaur thing. Yep. I'm not exactly sure what race we're supposed to be mocking, but he was fun and kids like him. Kids like Jar Jar Binks. That's one of the notes that I have as far as whether or not the prequels are for kids. I'm going to go maybe make them even more angry, the Star Wars fans. I'm going to tell you the prequels are more for kids than the original movies are. Kids will enjoy the prequels more than the original movies.
I agree with you. I think a lot of that has to do with, like, I was kind of a kid who, when I watched old movies, I, like, judged them.
Yes.
And so I think that's part of it, is, like, the newer movies are going to look cooler, even if they were able to use technology to do, you know, what they did with the original Star Wars, like, is incredible.
Yeah.
Especially when they did it. I will agree with you a little bit. Episode 1 and 2, we'll talk about, like, I think is absolutely for kids. Episode 3.
You don't think?
No, I think episode 3, like, out of almost all of the Star Wars, might be the most traumatizing for kids.
Why?
Well, we'll get there, but I just have to say, Darth Maul. So episode 1 is Darth Maul, correct?
Yes.
With the double lightsaber, which is, I just remember, again, I was like a freshman in high school when that came out and just like was in love with the fact that he had a double lightsaber. He horrified me though.
Yeah, he was scary.
The makeup job and like the little horns on the head. Like I remember being legitimately scared of him. No gore, almost no language at all.
Yeah.
Star Wars just like almost like they did it on purpose. Would love to know if they did. Think it's absolutely for kids. I'd say 8, 9, 10 years old. Episode 1.
Yeah.
Episode 2. There's a little more romance. There's a beheading in episode 2, but again, no gore. It's not bad. I'm thinking like 10, 11, 12. A little older.
Sticking at 8.
You're sticking at 8?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And then episode 3, you get like way more violence, more graphic violence, more like scary scenes. And I, for one, was traumatized by Anakin joining the dark side.
With the younglings.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that for sure. And then of course, like him just screaming bloody murder as he's, you know,
being burning
and they showed a lot.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, you might be right there.
Yeah. So I think like I definitely think 8, 9 years old for the first 2, 10-ish. I'm probably just gonna wait till 10 just because I can't wait to watch my sons wander and off. But then again, I'll probably let my 9-year-old at the time watch it. But then I'm thinking more like 12, 13 for episode 3. It's pretty dark.
12 or 13?
Yeah, like 12.
Okay.
Yeah, 12.
All right. I'm going to stick at 8 for all of them because I think everybody can handle it. I think it's fine.
Wow.
As long as you've got your parents there with you. I mean, the guy burning is scary. That is scary. But
the children?
They don't show the children dying. They just show him. They show him walking in from the back, and then boom with the lightsaber, and there's a child in front of him. Like you know what's going to happen, but it's not that you don't see it. And this is part of the story of Anakin Skywalker, right? Is that he is willing to kill all of these people to save the woman that he loves. And I feel like if you can have this conversation with your kids and be like this is where it goes off the rails, like this is when you maybe are not in actual love, you're just obsessed with somebody, there could be a problem there. I think kids can handle that kind of thing, especially because it's not so it's not as gory, there's no blood. The burning is a little scary, so if your kid is afraid of scary things.
My kid's number one fear is aliens.
Oh.
My 8-year-old's number one fear. He was visiting my grandparents, or I should say his grandparents, Jody's parents. And there was a UFO book that was like not for kids that he read when he was like 7.
Oh dear.
And is horrified of aliens. So scared of aliens that when we went to go see the new Paw Patrol and I told him there were meteors, he then thought there were going to be aliens and was scared of the new Paw Patrol until he found out there were no aliens. So for me, he's not watching any of these for a couple years.
So my high school boyfriend, who will probably never see this, but if he does, hi David, nice to see you. He said the scariest movie he ever watched in his life was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And for the life of me, my whole life, I've never understood being afraid of aliens. That is just so silly to me. It's so left field. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So none of that freaks me out at all. And I don't understand why anybody would be. I empathize. Like, I'm scared of things that don't make sense. It's fine.
Like what?
I'm afraid of Paul McCartney.
See? You call me a prude, and you're afraid of Paul McCartney.
I'm not afraid of Paul McCartney. Never mind. Those two things don't line up. They're not the same.
There are. I will say this: just know your kids when it comes to really all the Star Wars. Know your kids because the creatures are creepy looking and kind of goofy looking. And like when I was a kid, I definitely was somebody who was like, "Oh wow, that's kind of interesting." Yeah. And it kind of stuck in my head for a little while. I think it gets a little crazier in Episode 3.
George Lucas's kids are in the first movies, like all over. They show up.
That's your argument. That children act in the It movie.
Okay. Yes.
Therefore, it is for kids.
That's not my point. But like, they're not scary to me. The aliens, the creatures, they're meant to look cartoonish. They're not meant to be scary looking. Nobody's got scary fangs or whatever. Or if they do, they're on like a bright pink person. So it's kind of different. I don't know.
So you're sticking with 8 years old for all 3, and I'm saying between 9 and 10 for the first episode 1 and 2, and like 11, 12 for episode 3.
Yeah, I'm sticking 8. So far, all of my Star Wars is 8.
So far.
Yeah, I would say like 10 to follow the politics, 8 to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to be doing
the sequels.
See you in a second.
So exciting.
See you soon.